Just don't do the conversion. Just buy the film. Just don't try and do the conversion. Buy the film. It's so much easier, man. If you want the conversion to use your old lenses, then just buy yourself a digital with an adapter. But if you're really stubborn like me, welcome. Welcome on the journey. It's a lot of fun, a lot of stress, a lot of does this work? Will this work? But in the end, probably get something working, I think. Here's my first version of a digital conversion for a 35mm camera. I have the camera sensor, the ESP32, and the wires for a shutter. The ESP32 setup is the exact same as the film cartridge setup. Now I lied, this is a camera module I'm using. It's an OV3660 75mm cable. The biggest difference is I'm using a manual exposure. I tested without a filter and it looked pretty promising. Then I added a filter and it was too close to the sensor. Also, it was just added pretty gross. Luckily, I was able to take it off without damaging the sensor. So instead, I used a bigger filter I had lying around. And I think these filters are a lot easier to use because you don't risk breaking the original ones that come with the sensor. I use velvet tape to catch reflections, but it's thin enough where light is able to go through. And so before, I used to have some gaps between the filter and the camera, and light would be able to penetrate through. After improving it a little bit, it does seem that there's still some kind of leak. So next I'm going to use copper foil tape and then have this velvet on top of that. Ideally, what you want for a conversion is the shutter being held open and just collecting all of the light. It feels like I'm a little bit limited on hardware because they work on rolling shutters, and that means that higher exposures aren't really that possible. I was able to find an article where they go over in depth about how it works with the rolling shutter and also with the shutter times. When you take a picture with the SLR, the first current opens and it closes behind. So for higher frame rates, that means that it follows extremely quick, leaving a little gap in between. The sensor itself is really narrow, and so there could be a time where it fits perfectly in between those two current openings. But unfortunately, I don't think that the hot shoe is precise enough to catch it. It's pretty easy to optimize for lower shutters, anything below 15th of a second. The issue is that if you're taking pictures outside, then you have to heavily rely on aperture. So instead, it'd be nice to have a full spectrum of values. At first, I wanted to detect the shutter with just sound, but something weird happens with the microphone where it just spikes. When I was using sound activation, usually it missed the shutter sound. So instead, I'm just using the hot shoe to detect the shutter. Even with this connection, it's not exact timing, so sometimes it does miss, but it is reliable enough to tell me whether or not the photo was taken. I'm going to be making a second version that has the ports out here. This version is really not fun because every time you have to check the SD card, you have to pull out everything. Another thing to address is turning it on by pushing down. Instead, it's going to be easier if I just have a switch that turns on by turning instead of having to force down. In order to charge this first version, I have to hold it at a weird angle and make sure that the switch is always pushed down. Another thing to try and implement is having a Bluetooth shutter. The ESP32 should already have Bluetooth, and so I just need some kind of module to be connected onto it. The camera module gets hot, so this copper foil tape is good at holding it down but also spreading the heat evenly across. Luckily, the backplate is metal, so that also helps distribute the heat. The camera works normal, nothing gets held up. The only issue is probably closing between these wires, and that is the only thing that adds a little bit of difference to it. And you are able to just pop out all this modifications. Through testing, I did mangle up the ribbon cable to the camera module. So instead of replacing it and just continuing, I'm just going to start from scratch and make a second version. Luckily, I've got a rangefinder in order to test how universal the module is. And right off the bat, I saw an issue with how to turn it on. This winder stays engaged, meaning that if I put the module in, it'll always be powered on. Also, the film cutout is too small, so it may fit snug here, but it's too big to fit into here. Finally, there's no hot shoe. You need to get a signal straight from the shutter, and so you need a cable running to the separate module. So pretty easy modifications, but just shows how different each camera can be. I also have this point and shoot, which uses a different winding method, which is from the bottom instead of from the top. For this camera, there's a lot less movement for the back plate, and also the clearances are different for the plate. So that's pretty much it. Please let me know if you have any questions, and thank you for watching.